Welcome to Pause for the Truth, where you can sit back, relax, and hear an honest dialogue about health, wealth, legal, and social issues. The hosts are Dr. Rogers Kane, family practice physician, and Jocelyn Turner, health education consultant, with co hosts from the Northeast Florida Medical Society and its foundation. Stay tuned for the truth about matters affecting you and your family. We're here to tell you what's really going on and why.
Yes. So first of all, I can't go beyond those definitions, so I agree. But let me take another uh, tilt at this. If that's what it is, which I fully embrace, all of that is what it is. Um, Let me just talk a little bit about how I think we may get there. And it's the same truth that I learned from Dr. Gale over here years ago. It's like, so when you have a solution that's the truth, it's still the truth, right? It doesn't matter what the moment is. So this is a different moment than when I was at Duke. When I was at Duke, we experienced George Floyd. And there was this kind of collective, although uneven and not imperfect, gathering of people to say, what do we, as if, they were just coming to it, but I'm okay with it, right? They gave people the grace of coming to, this is horrible, right? This is what it looks like. And everybody was asking, how do I help? I want to be an ally, all these things. This is not the moment, right? You asked, what does it look like in this moment? This is not that moment anymore. It's actually gone the complete opposite direction, and if not farther in the opposite direction. But the how is still the same to me because she started with just the humanity. And so for the how for me is this. When I sit, and I was so happy to hear you talk about diversity, I can't wait to hear more of your story. When I think about sitting with people, humans, and deeply listening to their experiences, I'm not challenging it in my mind. I'm not trying to tell them what they feel is not true. I'm just taking in, this is your experience in the body that you live in. Of what it's like to walk down the street, what it's like to go in a store, what it's like to work, like honoring that lived experience. To me, I don't know how you can, if you're a human, and I'm gonna trust that everybody is, how do you unhear lived experience, right? And so I believe to get there, it's still the same. Like truth has to precede. Hearing the truth, honoring the truth makes me say, and it happens in my own life where I'm like, oh, I had an assumption. I sat with you. I heard your truth. I no longer can walk up to you and have that same assumption. Like I gotta work to, right? You can't unhear that. And I think that hopefully leads to a sense of responsibility to practice living differently, wherever that is. And hopefully that leads to the transformation. So I just believe deeply in that human to human connect. Once you do it, like I can't, this young man, I feel like I am responsible for him now. He just met me. He doesn't know that I decided. These two young people don't know that I've already decided. Like,
oh, it's a good person to have in your corner.
Like that's what it's happening.
I think it's a good person to have in your corner.
They belong to me, and they don't even know it. But I met them, and I thought, oh, look at that.
Yeah,
Right. Yes. I saw all of that potential, and I can't unsee that. Right. So I love the definitions, but the how to me is that personal connection and honoring.
Well, there's something specific that you said about the how. You talked about growth through realizing your assumptions, growth through you learning by listening deeply to other humans, their lived experiences. That's something that is at the heart of what it means to heal. And we have to be able to have that deep reflection of our own self and our own journey in order for this process to arrive where we want to be. And I know over here, I've heard, this is my amen corner over here. So I've heard her say that. I know there's something you want to say before I get to our young colleagues that are with us. I know there's something you wanted to say because I heard you.
Oh, well, I was the amen corner here, and I was certainly humbled and honored to hear your expression of the essence of the racial healing circle experience, where people do come together in circles. The circle process is as old as humanity itself, sitting around the fire, sharing stories, sharing our lived experience. And when I envisioned the future, I was envisioning that process at scale across this nation so that we are transformed by the deepened connection with other human beings. And it was just brought me so much joy to hear you express that. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay, you listen to Keith. I'm ready. You're hearing all this. What's your response from your perspective and your experiences?
When I first thought of racial healing, I thought about thinking about the ways that we are held back racially now. I know in our school systems, like we learn so much about how we were mistreated and how this country isn't built for us in the past, but we tend to like be ignored of how it affects us now and how this country still has issues where we are held back racially. And so I thought racial healing is the understanding that these things are still going on and that we have to work together to understand not how to fight and cause chaos, but how to maneuver successfully through the systems not built for us so that we can still succeed. And it's not just a one city or one community thing. It's more about learning and working together, like as a whole. Sorry, I'm trying to find words, but I'm trying to basically explain that healing is healing is through community, and I'm not my point. Healing is through community, and so Black communities now are so divided, and I feel like until we learn how to work with each other more and understand that we aren't the issues, it's not one person versus another, it's us against the whole system at large, though against us, then we can't really move towards racial healing. But I think understanding that's what we need to do is the first step.
Yes, I just remember one thing that you said, Gail, Dr. Christopher, a long time ago was this work is expansive. And when I heard you speaking, it was about expanding our community and understanding, like you mentioned before, our diversity, but also the path that we need to take together in order to get to the point where you're talking about. And don't like take your time to get trying. No one's gonna rush you. Just imagine if we're sitting at a kitchen table, no one's rushing you tonight. You take your time to figure it out.
I feel like as youth, we are extremely undermined in a way by elders that feel that a lot of youth are incapable of being able to tell what needs to be changed. But I learned a long time ago that we are able to make a change. And I feel like through like work that we do, that I do with Boomworks, and that we're able to like tell people like how they can change, how we can all make a difference. I feel like that's the first step, really learning on how you can make a difference. And like, what do you want to see change? I think is really a big question to truly ask yourself and ask other people. What do you want to see change? And if you want to see that change, then why aren't you making it happen and try to make it happen?
That sounds great. Is there something in particular that you're focused on in your advocacy work that you are saying, from my perspective, as a youth in this city, in this state, in this country, something that you're saying we need to change this?
I think one of like my favorite shows that I've ever done, there's two favorite shows that I've done with Boomworks. One was when I was younger. It was one of the like anti-bullying shows that we did. And I feel like that is one thing that's just like constantly, I feel like it's kind of swept under the rug a bit. Like I know we talk about it, but I feel like now like it's just become a thing where it's not as spoken about. I know that like especially children in schools, like children are bullied a lot, and like it can stem from racial issues, but it can also just stem from like other people being hurt on the inside. And another one of my favorite shows that we did was our show called I Want to Live, which was also like a drug violence and like a gun violence show, and I feel like that is a really big issue, especially in Baltimore, because I feel like Baltimore is an area where we are very like undermined. We don't have a lot at all. Growing up, we did not have a lot, and I feel like that is one of the things where it has led to it being a thing where people have nowhere else to turn, and it turns into gun and drug violence. And I feel like that's something that definitely needs to be changed, especially here in Baltimore.
Thank you. Definitely, we thank you for your work. Please, Mama Rashida.
I kind of want to jump in because I heard two things from them, and thank you all for sharing. Because I heard systemic change. That, you know, when we talk about racial healing, we're talking about the systems of oppression that are in place. And we have to speak to those. And I think Kesta mentioned about the education system. And we're talking about even the education system, but other systems, the legal system, all of these things. And in those spaces, you know, racism exists. And so, you know, we can, you know, we talk about it, but now the commitment to going into these systems and really, you know, making changes in those systems, because that's where it is. And those systems are affecting people's lives. So we live in communities that are underserved communities, and, you know, those systems that are in place create these things. We are in school sometimes where there are, you know, there's a difference in the books. One school on one side of town has everything, computers and everything, and another school on another side of town has nothing, you know. And so when we go into spaces and when you are really seeing the effects of institutional racism in communities and underserved communities, then you get it, you know, this work is deep, you know, and so we do our part to bring light and awareness to those issues because we think that's important. And we also have young people, because they research and look back to see, well, how did this happen? How did we get here? You know, we did a piece, All Your Hands Clean America, right? How did we get to these spaces, even the drug addiction, all the things? When you look back and you peel the onion back, you're gonna see institutional racism at the core of it. So how do we, the healing has to start with the truth of what something is. And then we can begin to dialogue. Of course, this dialogue we're doing right now is important, you know, so that we can know the issue, so we can really work on systemic change, you know? Yes.
Collectively, as you were
Collectively, yes.
You were saying that we can't do this in isolation.
No.
We can't be this group over here, this group, we have to unite.
Yes, absolutely.
What we're talking about, and you did mention MoonWorks multiple times, we talked about that, and I know that there are probably people online that may not be as familiar
Yes.
as we all are here at this table. So I would love if you could just take a minute just to tell them a little bit about this, because you have these two lovely young people that are joining us tonight from the new generation work that you're doing.
Yes.
So if you could just do it before we jump into the next question.
Okay, so we are a social justice theater company located in Baltimore, Maryland. We've been around for about 28 years. And what we do is we start with the truth. We take true stories, factual information on any subject matter, and we run it together to create, I think, riveting, strong, powerful productions. But these productions, and we do them in theaters, but we do street corners and basketball courts or wherever. And we take those real stories, add music, sound, drumming, dance, and we go to the communities and we act as a mirror, because they're true stories. The young people share them, the community has shared these real stories, and then we use it as a mirror for the community to view itself. And then we have talkbacks after the show where the community gets a chance to be able to share and talk about the changes that they'd like to see. And so the whole process is so healing, because, you know, the shows are really great, but it's the process that we go to get to the shows, because we have to bear ourselves, we have to tell the truth, we have to, you know, many of the young people, they're real true stories. They're going to share tonight a little bit of some of the things that they've written. So they write and they share, and from that, healing comes. It doesn't come, you know, and then we have some real kumbaya moments, but they came because we did the inner work. to get to the root of whatever it is, whatever the problem is. Because if we're talking about, addictions, where does it stem from? What is the core of this? If we're talking about gun violence, whatever that is. If we're talking about, and sometimes when we are in spaces, particularly, we've done some things with University of Maryland in regards to race, but we had to everybody sit around, tell your truth, tell what it is, and then we created theater pieces out of that. So that's what we do, and we do it in communities all over the East Coast, really, but Baltimore City, especially.
Thank you. The healing process, I wanted you to share that because the healing process looks different in some places, and because it's a different process from, so that's an excellent example.
And we use circles, because we start our.
Oh, I know you do,
Yes.
I know you do. That's a core part of the TRHT framework and the movement. So Dr. Christopher, I'm going to turn to you. So given your work as an health equity leader in this country and talking about social determinants and the TRHT framework, how do you see racial healing tied to health and well-being and structural change? And I think that follows right after what Mama Rashida was saying. So we would love your perspective on that as an expert in this area.
I'll give you my perspective as a human being and as an expert. And I haven't shared this publicly because I just came to it recently. But my training clinically is holistic, understanding the human body and understanding the gift it is to us, right? And how much power it has. I mean, literally, the body creates itself, but it takes its instructions from the divine and from us, and we're connected to the divine. And I have experienced so much racism in the course of my lifetime and so much loss. I've transmuted it into a life's work, but some of you know I had an eyesight challenge over the last few years, and I was finally able to pinpoint when I sent a message to my body that I did not want to see. And it was the death of George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd. Mm-hmm. I made a decision in that moment that I did not want to see that. And my body internalized my literal intention, which our bodies do based on our lived experiences. So I wanted to show rather than tell. Our lived experiences translate into stress levels within our bodies. Our lived experience, sometimes it translates into joy and healing. But sometimes, cumulatively, we are exposed to experiences, to trauma, to pain, and it sets up a cascade of hormonal reactions and biological and biochemical reactions that predispose us to breaking down our bodies, let's put it that way. The stress response was never designed to be continuous. Our ancestors had a natural, we do too, a natural stress response to allow us to fight or to flee. But in a world that's designed with racial hierarchy, we have to hold steady in that space, right? And it leads to biological, physiological changes that are associated with diabetes and heart disease and hypertension. The list goes on and on. There is a beautiful pyramid that the Centers for Disease Control created that talks about the factors that affect health. And the widest base of that pyramid are community factors, right? The environment, the conditions in which we live. And I've recently said they need to put another level underneath that, which is the political environment in which we live, because the politics in a democracy shape the policies which shape the flow of resources. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that should come out of this moment is a real civic education we should all have a clear understanding of how much power is in the hands of our elected officials, and we have to choose them wisely. So that was a long answer to your question,
Great
but
one.
I hope it was helpful.
You're gonna get me emotional. I was like, I said I'm not gonna be up in here crying. Don't do that to me now. But that is exactly, I feel that, I see that, because I know so many people within my own sister circle, the health issues that they're having. And Dr. Ashby, I know that you could probably talk about that with the people that are in your role that are experiencing challenges at the level that they are. I don't know if you want to respond to what Dr. Christopher said.
I was in her amen corner.
Exactly, I saw you.
Oh my goodness. So when I think about leaders in this moment, pick all the leaders sitting around this table, and leaders in various institutions, and I'll stay in my world of higher education. I will tell you, so this is the start of my 4th year, I'm in the middle of my 4th year here. My first year, there were 2 or 3, I think 2 in the first year, maybe 1 in the second year, Black women presidents of universities who just died. I mean, I was doing the job and then they died. That's a real thing, right? That is directly, I believe, tied to exactly what we just heard. And I experienced it in my own life. Like I work hard to take care of myself. And yet, because of the generations of this, I don't have high blood pressure, but I have to take medication because my daddy experienced. You see what I mean? Like I am carrying that, in addition to my own version of stress that I'm overworking, right? And stress response that I'm overworking. So for me, when I think about leaders of color, and I'll just stay with women leaders of color for a moment. I have several on my leadership team, and we talk about this because what I know is they're not just experiencing the stress of doing the job, they're living, right? They're lean while Black, right? And oh my, and there's so many things they're carrying. They're carrying their families differently because many of them are the first to, and you can fill in the blank. They feel super responsible for all the students of color in a different kind of way because those students come to see them more than other folks because they can relate. I mean, I have student office hours and we have a diverse student body, but I have a lot of Black students who show up because they see me. And I love that. There's joy in that. But then there's also weight in that. And so when I think about leaders who really do this work in whatever their version is of leading, the care that is required. I say to my people, you're not a regular leadership team, right? I have several Black women on my leadership team, and I'm saying, no, I need to care for you differently because I need you to make it through this. And so it is serious. But one of the things I loved about what I just heard you say about institutions and education and systemic change. A part of the way for me to think about the systemic change. So when I was sitting outside of the system, maybe as a student, I didn't feel like I was in the system. Right? I saw the system, but I didn't feel like I'm in the system now. Right? Okay.
Yes, I would say you're in the system.
I'm in the system. Okay. Thank you. I am now in the system. I just discovered the system is a group of folk. I used to think the system was some big thing that just happened. It turns out the system is a group of people just deciding things systemic.
That's right.
Right? So in order to change the system, the leaders have to be more diverse. But here we go. And now I just put the pressure. So I need diverse leaders to change the system. But now I just asked the people who were being hurt by the system to be the changers of the system. So now not only did you have the pressure of coming in here trying to change the system, then you're trying to live while you change it.
Exactly.
So that is the challenge. And I am so grateful for every leader in this university, particularly those people of color. Because you're doing that and
Exactly.
for the sake of systemic change. Because the system doesn't change if people don't change.
That's right.
That's so true. That is so true.
That's the truth.
So multiple head nods over here on this side of the table in response to what you just heard Dr. Ashby say. Anyone want to jump in to, because I saw a couple amens over here too.
You know, I was thinking about, I know with us, that's why we utilize the arts in the way that we do, because people do live in spaces where they are affected, and even because, you know, race is a social construct, you know, there's the human beings, that's what we all are, right? But because of these systems that are in place, that are with people in those systems, and yet, even with the young people that we work with, we create spaces where they can heal. So we have to include like yoga and breathing exercises and Tai Chi and different ways that they can get through these things because it's stressful. We don't realize the weight that it carries, and it does, because we move through it, and people who are experiencing this, and I'm speaking from the community that experienced the results of racism itself, I'm talking about. And so it's heavy. So how do you know, you gotta have some things in place for healing. So we talk about those things, we talk about how we can come together, and then we talk about how can we really heal, what can we really do internally so that we can get through the next thing, you know, or we can continue to do the work. And even for young people, it's a lot for them to travel through, to helping them to understand. And that's why, Dr. Gale, when you were talking about healing and meditation and having healing circles where people can talk. So I think the dialogue, the thing that happens, like we're talking here, I think, you know, these healing circles need to be everywhere so that we can begin to talk about it. And I love that this process starts with truth. Because that's an important thing. Sometimes the truth can be uncomfortable, you know, but that's part of the healing too. And anyway, I just wanted to speak to, even though we're doing the work, we have to take care of ourselves. And I know for us, George Floyd, we went out and we protested and we did those things, and for me, that was, and then in Baltimore, somebody else got killed that they didn't talk about, that our young people witnessed. They came and say, somebody else died, Mama Rashida, this is too crazy, and it was so much that I myself went to a healing circle so that I could, because I had to keep, we're in the trenches doing the work in communities that are suffering, right? So I had to go and do some work on myself so that I could heal from what was happening, because it got to be like, this is a lot. So that I could go back and then continue the work. So I think the healing is made up of people who are individuals, and then for homework, we have a principle that we live by called Ubuntu. It's an African principle, you know, out of South Africa, and it says, I am because we are. And really, really believing that. You know, some of us, I am because we are, and it's real. You know, we think that it's not like that sometimes, but it's the truth. We are group people. We help each other get through things. So starting with the individual and healing, and then how can I bring somebody else on to help them to heal as well?
I would love to hear from both of you. How has this model, what you just heard Mama Rashida talk about, had an influence on your own development and your own growth in this journey and in the healing process that she was talking about?
Well, I know, given my opportunities at Moonworks, the circles we have where people are there to reflect, it's really opened my eyes because, everybody has their own struggles, their own things they go through, but to be in a community space where other people my age, and I can see them open up about the things they've gone through in the most bare naked, um, insecure moments where they're talking about their struggles, their pains, the things they've gone through. It's helped me be able to process the things I go through, whether it be community issues or just social issues, things in school and what have you. Like the opportunity to see this person, they've gone through this, but they're here at this program, this community center, they're talking about it. There's tears being shed, but there's comfort, there's support, and that at the end of the day, like there's a place where you can go and you can express those feelings. It has really helped tremendously. I think that they're important for kids our age because the most important thing is just letting you know that other people go through the same things you do, not to feel alone. And then from there, that's when the healing starts. So I really think that that's just a thing that's priceless, and I'm really grateful to experience it.
Yes. Stay connected, stay connected.
I started off with Women's when I was very young, when I was 4, and I've been healing. Yeah,
I did not know that. We didn't know that.
I've been healing since then. I came into Women's when I was 4 because I needed an outlet after my dad died, and I felt like healing was like a very important thing to me. I just like over the summers, like I've worked with Youth Works and with Women's over the summer, like doing the shows and everything, and I just feel like we come in starting off as like, who are all these people? We don't know who any of these people are, and we leave with like a lot of them like being like long-term friends because we have a chance to connect and we have a chance to heal. We have a game that we play when we first start off. It's called Identify, and we're able to like learn different things about one another. The questions start off fun, stepping in if you like pizza, and like little by little they get a little bit more deep. If you lost a family member due to gun violence, drug abuse, anything like that, and slowly but surely we start to realize that the people that came in are not the same people that left, and they really get to open up, and we get to really learn who people are, and we're very vulnerable in that space, and not in a bad way, but we're very vulnerable, and we're able to learn a lot about each other, because I will say we do come in judging, like how you come in as a person. It does matter a lot. First impressions do mean a lot, and I feel like once we're able to understand how you are, like why you are how you are, then we're able to understand more.
Definitely. And part of that, I think, is that higher education plays a role in that. I think the educational system and then also higher education plays a role in helping us be part of the community, learning how to advance democratic values, how to think about the civic engagement piece, and to be part of a larger community and the public good of higher education. It's both, yes, we want students to have economic and social mobility, but we also want them to be part of their community and citizenship. So Dr. Ashby, can you just talk a little bit about, in higher education, we're going to focus on that for a second, how do we really build these environments of what we call, in our own jargon, I'm sorry everyone, inclusive excellence, that truly reflect and advance racial healing? Because oftentimes in higher education, we think about equity and student outcomes, we think about, retention rates, graduation rates, things, those type of measures, but we're talking about that, but we're also talking about preparation for civic engagement, for to be part of the community, to what you're hearing is a core part to our own development. So can you talk a little bit about that and what role students play in shaping that future? What role you play?
Sure. So I smiled when you started the question and you said, we call it inclusive excellence. Not laugh because you all don't know what impacts you had. Like I was transformed when I met you the first time and sat in those. I have not ever been the same. I don't think I'm there. I think that there is more to come and I can feel it. but I was transformed. And literally, when I came to UMBC, I came here because what I saw was the core value was inclusive excellence. Like that's the first line of our vision statement says, we are redefining excellence in higher education through an inclusive culture. And when I saw that, I thought, oh, if they really mean what they say, then let's get to work, right? Because for me, it means we here are going to refuse to call ourselves excellent unless we are inclusive, because that's the very definition. Like you can't actually get to excellence if you're not inclusive. Like how are all the same people going to come up with the next greatest thing? That is not possible, right? So it is the core value of this institution. And we have a lot of work to do because you always have a lot of work to do. But when we did a culture survey, a value survey, 5 times more than academic rigor is inclusive excellence. So there's a desire, right? And there is action here, but there's so much work to do. So at a place like this, what it means for me is that when these 2 young people decide they want to come to UMBC.
Okay, that was the plan.
That was the recruitment. That was the recruitment.
Did you hear that? I don't know.
Whatever they decide, if they decide they want to get a college degree, I also believe everybody needs a college degree, but that's a different story. But if these 2 young people decide they want a college degree and they come on this campus, what it should look like for them is, first of all, you can't experience inclusive excellence if you're not a diverse community. Like how do you do that, right? So it would mean that they would see this is a majority minority campus, okay? And so that is phenomenal, right? And so when I walk around and I see students, I mean, from varied backgrounds all over the world, not just here, but all over the country. And they're friends. Like you say, you might judge at first, but then they're friends. And I walk up to them and say, how in the world did this group of people, how did y'all come together? And they were in a class together, they were in a discussion together, they were in the Shriver Center together, they were in all these places together. And they're engaging that difference in a way that they find each other's humanity and just make the best friends they could have never imagined. Because this is an environment where you have to bump up against difference because it's everywhere. Now, whether you choose to engage it is a different thing, but they choose to engage it, which is a beautiful thing. For higher education, the challenge for me is not the diversity and engagement of our students, it's the rest of me. That's the work. The work is, so how are the faculty a reflection of the diversity of the state of Maryland, of the city of Baltimore, of this community? The answer here is no, not yet. And they have the value of inclusive excellence, and that's a beautiful thing. But I don't actually need the actual inclusion of difference in order for that to be played out. So we need it in faculty, we need it in staff, we need it in leadership, so that everybody is encountered, like you can't avoid it. And so for me, the most beautiful thing is when the students disagree. Oh, here we go, right? When the students disagree on issues, and everybody thinks they're right. And then you have to sit with the same person you loved 20 seconds ago. You just discovered that they don't agree with you on this thing. And this thing now, so do you still love them? What is it now? Right? And adults are doing that too, by the way, right?
Yes.
We're all finding out things about each other. We're like, oh, now do I still love you, right? Do I still honor who you are? I might not love what you do, what you believe, but do I still honor you as a human? That your hierarchy just shifts. So for me, that's our work. I love being at this institution because it has that value.
Yes.
It has enough humility to know we have a lot of work to do. But it is the way to excellence for us. And excellence to me means that they leave here, not with a job, they don't have a job, they're great. They can have a job, but that's fine. All the things you say, like economic prosperity, it means that they can go live a life in community, where every community they step into becomes better because they right? Like they're gonna challenge the person who, they're gonna just challenge the systems. They're gonna ask questions that haven't been asked. They're gonna listen to voices that maybe are not typically highlighted or heard or on. That's what they're gonna do. And then they're gonna go, have a job too, that's also.
Right, it's both, yes, yes.
It's and.
Mhm.
But for me, if it's not and, then I'm not interested, because their lives are bigger than the job that they're gonna get.
Yes. One of the things that you said, and I know Gail wants to respond, Dr. Christopher wants to respond to this, is it's a beautiful thing when students disagree.
Oh, I love it.
Let's reclaim that for our community and for what people are seeing that they think is happening in higher education. We love the discourse. We loved being able to learn about different perspectives and to challenge our assumptions, as you said. Higher education is not about one view. It is about diverse viewpoints. We say this all the time, so let's reclaim that. We have always been about that. With civility and with integrity, we honor that as a core principle of higher education. And when you created and envisioned with all these national groups and leaders, the framework for truth, racial healing, and transformation, I know that much of what you just heard from Dr. Ashley, Dr. Christopher, was at the core, which is one of the reasons why the truth, racial healing, and transformation movement, you wanted it directly tied to higher education institutions in an intentional way, not the only place, but as a core part of the vision that you had. I don't know if you want to respond to that.
Well, I do want to respond to everything.
I know you do.
But I do want to affirm the young people and Mama Rashid and womb works. The etymology of womb is compassion. And the compassion that you bring into the world and extend to your community and to these young people, it just moves my heart so beautifully. And I just wanted to thank you for that. I also wanted to say to the young people, our movement for civil rights was driven by the energy, the vision, the creativity, the courage, the determination of the young students on the college campuses. When you get to be our age, many of us, we've got other things to do, right? But young people stood up and sat down and sat in and went to the lunch counters and went to jail and did all those things, those protests. And that's a big part of why we are here where we are today. So I really wanted to remind us all of that, right? We wanted to be part of the college campus universe because we know the future is right there, and the courage and the stamina and all the things that are going to move us. I think you said it, Dr. Valerie, when you said, the future is not with a less than diverse community, right? You need the young voices, you need the diversity so that you can create new ideas, a new future. So the Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation framework, it's a strategy saying, let's tell the truth. Let's create narratives about that include the true history of how we got to where we are and where we are today, right? And then let's build a critical mass of support for that. Let's, through our expansive human relatedness, through all the ways that we heal. So the second pillar is healing. It's racial healing. It's community healing. It's optimizing human relatedness, which is what a democracy requires, right? And from that clear understanding and from those relationships, then we can move into addressing the systemic, not just the systemic obstacles and barriers, but the systemic solutions, right? What are the solutions to overcoming the legacy of segregation and separation and resource deprivation, right? What are the solutions for that? When you think about the pillar of the law, which is the middle pillar in that systemic layer, or I like to say the fourth pillar, it has been litigation, it has been legislation, right? It has been regulation, it has been all these things in our system of law. It's been voting, right? It's been access to the vote. That's how transformation happens. And of course, the systems, the fifth pillar of the framework is the economy. We have to recognize that this industrial revolution that created this world that we all live in today, it was built on the cotton empire. And the cotton empire was built on the backs of our ancestors with the blood and the tears and the sweat of our ancestors. So when we understand how pivotal we have been in the creation of all of this today, we gain a sense of deservedness, if you will, a sense of yes, we have to be sharing in the fruits of the labors of our ancestors. And we have to do it with honesty and with humility, but with a sense of we deserve to do this. We deserve to be in this, the repair, the reckoning, but more importantly, the energy to create something wonderful, which is what we've been doing from the moment we came to this continent. So that's a long answer to you.
No, but it's an inspiring answer, because what I want to do now is just go to the audience before we go on to the next question. The next question is, what is one small action? Because that was a call to me. Both of you were talking about a call. That was a call. So what is one small action, personal or communal, that you believe truly supports racial healing? We want to hear from those of you in the chat. We want to talk to the group here, to the panelists that are here participating in this conversation. What is one small action, whether that's personal or communal, that you believe truly supports racial healing? We're getting some comments. I can't see the comments. So they're going in and up. That's okay. There's something. It's okay. All right.
We're getting comments about acknowledging the failures of the systems currently in place,
Okay.
creating opportunities for people to show up as their authentic selves.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. That is so true. I want to ask this cross-generational question for everyone here. So there are bridges and sometimes gaps between generations in this work. That's just a reality. I have an 18-year-old son. I'll say A, he'll say B. I'll say black, he'll say white. I'll say this. I think people are getting the point here, right? So I listen to him and we engage in dialogue and conversations, but I also want to think about what we, and I'm saying we, as elders, as older leaders in this, what we're learning from you. We want to learn from you. You're not somebody that we are teaching or telling what to do. You're partners with us in the movement. We have to be seen as equals and as part of the community. So I want to know what you're seeing from us as we get this right, we get this wrong. There are things for us to do to improve, but what are you learning from us? What is it that you think that you're saying that you need from us in order for you to be full participants in this and to be equals and to be part of a movement that is really going to have a direct impact on your lives for many, many years to come?
I feel like one big thing when it comes to youth and adult interaction, especially with an issue like this, is that we are strongly considered as youth, but in reality, we have so much more to talk about, especially with issues like these, where I feel like we get different perspectives of how this all plays out. I feel like with youth, like we see it in all different types of aspects at home, in our communities, in schools, like we see it everywhere. It's like everything is everywhere nowadays. So I feel like more or less being treated as like someone, not that fully knows what they're talking about, but as someone that does have a different type of perspective on what we're talking about. and not being treated as such that what we're saying and what we're seeing isn't valuable enough to be in that conversation, and that we do have something to say, whether it's little or it's big, it's still important.
Agree.
I think to piggyback off her, yes, we have something to say, but I also feel like youth nowadays, like, we don't want to pick up on what the previous generation has been telling us as much. I know that we can take opportunities for granted when we're interacting with adults, elders, whoever it might be, and they're telling us what they've experienced, how it transpires into the world now, and what's going on. Sometimes we just tend to move past it or not consider it as much. And the same thing can be said to the previous generation. You know, just because we're young doesn't mean that we don't have a real voice or we're not to be taken seriously. And sometimes it just be brushed off as, oh, you know what you're talking about, or oh, because maybe you had to go through bigger changes. That means one view or one opinion or one voice is more important than the other. When the future is always changing, so one day our voice will be old and won't be considered as you know what we're talking about. But I think that understanding that is important, and that knowing to respect and to appreciate the other generation's voice, whether it's a young person speaking to an adult or an adult speaking to a young person, to just know that you're experiencing life the same way I am, and that these issues they've been through with us generations, they're the same issues that we've all been going through. So how can we work together and understand each other to better ourselves to like find a solution for those problems?
Agree. Well said. Well, beautiful, beautiful. Before we take a break so that we can do the youth spotlight, because we want to hear from you, I have one more question. And Mama Rashida, I'm just going to start with you because it's action-oriented, practical steps individuals and communities can take right now. You've been talking about, you've mentioned several things, I think, throughout our conversation in the strategies that you're using within your organization, within WeWorks, and we're working with many people across the Baltimore community. But how do we hold each other accountable for those? So we've talked about different strategies. We've talked about what happens in higher education. We've talked about what happens with the health equity. We talked about what happens with youth. Just across the board. But how do we hold each other accountable for the changes that we know need to happen, the changes that are happening, so that we can have the transformation that we all seek?
I think when you really, if you see everybody as a human being, and you want for other people that which you want for yourself, it's gonna compel you to make decisions and to make moves and to do things that you know is going to be for the good of all. Because if, I would just say as an example, the things, when we know that racism exists here in America, we know the history of it in reference to African people born here in America, right? And we know the history of it. But the things that we have stood for and the things that we have marched for and the things that we protested against are things that are good for humanity. They're good for everybody. And we know this. So we should be compelled to do what we can in our own community when we see injustice, to speak up about it. When we see injustices somewhere where we live, or we see somebody say something that we know is a racist thing to say, don't laugh at it. In our own communities, in our own spaces, be responsible in that way. And I think if we do that individually, then collectively it's going to have a ripple effect, right? We do need healing circles. These healing circles need to happen. Sometimes they can't happen. This is Mama Rashida speaking, everybody here, I'm speaking for everybody. But I think that people of color who experience this thing They may have a circle that they have, and there are people who, because white supremacy has permeated so that people almost believe the lie of it, because it is not true, right? And then you have white people who believe the lie of it, it's not true. They need healing too. You cannot watch atrocities and see somebody that was hung or see different things historically, and it doesn't affect you. You're in need of some healing because you witnessed something that was an atrocity. And the people who it was inflicted upon, they gotta heal and they gotta talk about some things. And then we can come together, right, in truth. Because sometimes we don't want to talk about things because it feels uncomfortable or it makes people feel guilty. Or we feel, but guilt is an emotion that we should use for change so that we can change our behavior. Not to just feel bad, oh, I'm making you feel bad. No, it is to happen so that we can together change this thing. Because there are people, everybody and every child, we work particularly in African American communities, but I could take the same model and work in any community. I could go to the Appalachian Mountains and use the same process with white children, helping them to see themselves, helping them to heal from their pain, using theater as a way for them to tell their story. It can happen anywhere. But we have, because every child deserves to feel good about who they are. Because when you love yourself, right, and you know yourself, then you can have a real love for somebody else. If you are in systems and in places where there's the superior and inferior lines, white is superior to black, or police are superior to citizens, and we have these hierarchies, right? Then we never come together. The healing can't happen. But it's in spaces when we create these circles, we start talking about what's happening, we deal with the truth of it, then we come together and we support the people where harm has been done. Because it may mean that maybe I can't join this particular thing, but I can support you in your healing space because something happened. So I think, I guess getting back to, it's gotta start with self. What can I do in my neck of the woods to do something different? If, I shouldn't, we all know that the whole thing that's going on with ICE and all that stuff that's happening with that is just absurd and crazy and awful, right? What can I do to speak to that? How can I, wherever it is where you see injustice, stand up against it. Because when we have justice for real, there's gonna be peace. We're gonna come together for real. It'll be authentic. See, because what we've had is this lopsided love. People of color can't go around not loving themselves and then talk about, oh, we love you. No, it's not real. That's like loving a man and, you say, but you don't love yourself. It's not gonna happen, or a woman, or whatever. And so that's the space that I think healing. I don't know if I answered your question.
You did. You're talking about how we hold each other accountable.
Yes.
I just want to say that one thing that I've always heard growing up is be the change that you wish to see for the world. And I don't understand how people can want all this different change and ask for all this different change, but are so scared to get out there and really do the change that they want. And I feel us doing Roomworks and putting on shows and doing all this stuff, it may be small to some people, but it really is change. I'm doing shows during the summer, I've never seen so much emotion during our talkbacks and being able to really hear how we've affected people. That is change. Change is so little, and it doesn't even take that much to do change. And some people are just really scared in order to just get up and do the change that they wish to see. You can't wish to see something that you can't even do for yourself.
That's so true, and that's a perfect transition because we want to invite you both. This is the chance where we're going to center the voice of the youth that are our guests here from West Baltimore, from Roomworks, and from the New Leadership Program. We want to invite you to share your story, your reflections, your hopes for the future. And I don't, are you gonna do it from here? You wanna, they're inviting you over?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Please, so for the audience, you're gonna get a little piece of that tonight.
Yes.
So we hope that you come to some of the performances, some of the theater productions, some of the talk tracks, some of the wonderful community opportunities that are provided by Roomworks. We're gonna give you a piece of that tonight. And we invite our young guests to come and do that right now. From here.
When I think about violence in my community, I think about the personal struggles that go on behind homes and how it sets men up to pick up holes so stuck in zones. I think about facing abuse from police, 12, because as a black man, you never know if they'll treat you well. I think about school, how we're exposed to bullying, beatings, and judgment, thinking it's cool. I think about violence all the time, but I vision a better world. Violence in my community would be prevented if only we learned how to see others' differences and learn how to forgive. If emotional intelligence was pushed instead of fighting and killing kids. Because I want to see my community prosper and not have to wonder if 4th of July pops, or gunshots or fireworks, or will I be safe at events, walking down streets or even at work. That's prevented only if we value sports balls the same way we value guns. The same way we're filled with anger and sadness, we work towards having fun. That is the community that I want.
Creativity flows through me. It comes in many different ways. Through my pen, through my voice, and through my body, I create excellence. When I write with passion so that people understand the words that came from within me. When I speak, I create different tones with my voice to express what I am feeling. When I sing, the different levels of my volume take control of how the song is supposed to feel. When I dance, I connect to the floor to make the movement embody my soul. When I use my hands to paint, to mold, to draw, I'm creating something real, something tangible for people to feel my creativity. Creativity is the medicine that heals me. Kumba, creativity, it's not just something that you do. It is a way that you carry yourself forever and always.
Thank you both so much. And the drummer, yes. I mean, so first of all, I did get chills. You didn't say that, and I'm not, that is, especially when you said, I create excellence. Excellence is such a topic right now in our community on what is excellence, what is not. And when you said that, I create excellence. It's absolutely beautiful and so true. And so true. We want to open it up for questions from the audience, for those of you who are here. And please use the chat function for that. But one of the prompts that we have for you is for you to share a word now about, we had it at the beginning of where you were, where you entered into this space, and where you are now, and you participated and engaged in this conversation. And then we also want you to think about it, share one tangible commitment you can make now. And this, I'm going to open this up for our group as well. So you gave me words at the beginning, you gave the community, you put that out there for everyone to hear. I want to hear where that journey is now for you. Is it the same word? Is it in a different context? Are you expanding? What are you thinking about right now in this moment? And then I also want you to think about a tangible commitment that you're going to make. You've said many things tonight, but I want to hear, I think our audience would love to hear that as well. So, who wants to start?
I think my word that I'm feeling right now is change. I feel like we started to explain what can be changed and what we want to see change. And I feel like that's my word right now.
I think in this moment, my hope has increased.
I would say my word is expanded because I've heard great points from you about how like trauma and like things can affect your body, your community, how it can affect your body. I've heard from her about the importance of like circles, and then you about how we want to change the system, but also we want to learn how to prosper in our system while changing at the same time. Those are just all points I brought, like learned from this that um, I didn't think about before, ever thought about before. So I just say change because it really has changed how I think about things.
Anybody who knows me knows that I want to get up and run around the table.
I know you do.
I'm struggling to sit here right now.
She is
struggling to
sit here.
I want to get up and run around the table.
I know you do.
What? Like, what? Right? Like, this is amazing. I felt hopeful. I was gonna say more hopeful,
Yes.
but I think it's like inspired. And it's why I love my job.
Yes.
Because anytime you're around young people, they don't. This is what they do, right? They just being, just being their amazing selves, and just listening to. I love the youth and the wisdom from the youth and the wisdom from the elders in the room. But I feel inspired.
Right. Yeah.
I guess my word is certainty. I know, as Dr. King said, you know, he had been to the mountaintop, he had seen the promised land, and we as a people will get there. And feeling the power of everyone around this table, I am certain that the healing is in process. And the next level is there. We will achieve it. You know? And so I'm just so inspired. You talked about goosebumps, right? I mean, just, oh, what a gift to be in all of your presence and to carry that certainty with me that victory is definitely ours.
It is. What have we heard online? Do we have comments online, you did?
Yes, we do. We have, I will stand against every injustice I encounter. Another participant said, working with students, I'm inspired to keep enhancing the work I do to empower and uplift students' voices, especially in our Black and Brown communities. We can keep getting better at this and keep providing spaces for our students to express themselves and tell their stories, sharing, teaching, and inspiring one another.
Excellent. Any others in the room?
Validated.
Yes.
I'll just say validation.
Oh, Eric, you have to get up so they can see you on the camera. They can see you.
Yes, I would just say validation. You know, it's and very moving. You talked about sitting here trying to fight back emotion and tears, but yeah, it was, you know, hearing the testimonies and just knowing that you know, how far we've come as a campus center, and seeing the connection between the elders and the young people in the room, and the connection between Duke University and UMBC and all of the TRC campus centers across the country. It's just extremely validating and extremely moving. So thank you all.
Thank you. So we're going back to the commitment. So that was the word that you shared and your perceptions of where you are now versus where you were then at the beginning of our conversation. I just want to end this conversation as we close, invite you to talk about one core commitment, one concrete commitment that you are going to do, or you invite us to do. as part of this community. And for the audience, we'll ask you to do the same if you haven't already. And we're gonna close out with that, obviously, with some of our wonderful drummer. Thank you so much. We do want to say thank you to you too. Thank you so much. Yes, what a blessing to have when you works here with us. Thank you so much. So concrete commitment. Concrete commitment. For yourself or for others?
I'm going to bring the voice of the next generation of young people into our work at the National Collaborative for Health Equity.
Yes, that is exactly, yes. Very core commitment, yes. Dr. Ashby?
I think my commitment is, well, can I have one more?
Yes, you can. You're the president, we're on your campus.
For me, I have one.
Yes, you may.
I think the first one is personally, I mean, I love that our university is 8 miles from City Hall. And one of the commitments that I made before coming in the door, because I love the city. I'm new to the city and I love the city. I walked in the city and I was like, I love you. I love the people I see, I love the history, the complexity, all the things, right? And the potential of the young people in the city just blows my mind. So personally, I made that a presidential commitment that we're gonna honor the B in UMBC.
All right.
Right, it's Baltimore County,
Yes.
but Baltimore City is also what makes us anything, right? And so I'm just thinking all the ways that I wanna know more about you, what you do in West Baltimore. And I wanna lean in personally, and by doing so, I'm bringing the institution. And by the way, our institution is serious about its next level of commitment in the city. So I'm excited. So that's one commitment. The other commitment is just a constant one for me of how do I make the words that we say match the actions that we take. So if we say, we're gonna say inclusive excellence, where are all of the places that is not happening, and are we really? I am committed to bringing those two closer in line. The integrity to me is when what you say you value, you don't have to say it, because people actually know what you know, right? So that disconnect, that's a commitment.
A commitment I can make, I've heard just throughout the table, people say that we need to hold each other accountable. And as we fight racism, but also as we heal racially, I think that we need to work on not bringing each other down as much. So I think the thing I can start with is just in my school and the people I interact with on the daily level, just holding each other accountable, making sure that we're not talking down on each other and just pushing each other down, but also in the outside world, holding each other accountable. And I say that so much because I know like people our age, like to step out and do something outside the norm, that's like looked at as weird. Like whether you're doing it for a good purpose or not, like, it's gonna bring like people talking about you or just the wrong, like you're gonna be looked at weird. But more important than that is making sure that you're doing more to help the problem than pour into it. And I mean, along with that, continuing to work at Moonworks to help uplift communities and be a place for teenagers to share their voice.
This is my, I think, a personal commitment. So I got introduced to Truth Healing, Racial Healing, TRHT, through Micah, and some time ago. And I went, but I want to learn more about all of the things that you do. And I think I would love to create a piece about, utilizing some of the processes and the tenets of it for us to create a peace. This year, we're focusing on juvenile justice because we're in the jails working now. But maybe, so I can talk to you about that.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
At some point, I think, so that, we can really, I think, a theatrical piece about this might be an interesting thing to do. So anyway, I know as I learn, I'm growing and I'm learning more through Eric and Uday, so I would love to know more.
Thank you.
All right.
We hope that, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
One commitment that I have for myself is just to continue doing works, keep doing what we're doing because it really does make a change. But I think a commitment for everybody out there is that if you want change, make the change happen. Change can be little, change can be big, but if you really want change, make change happen. You can't keep making excuses for why you don't want to create change. Change is little, make change happen.
So thank you all. Thank you all to every single person that played a role in making tonight happen for our community, for the institution here. See, I want to say our institution. I'm already a part of it. It is. But I mean, for all of you, for healing is not a moment, as we say, it's a movement. And if we are going to do the work, we must be in partnership and collaboration and community together to achieve the vision that we've all talked about. We encourage you to continue your journey in the healing process and to visit and utilize the resources that the Shriver Center has here at UMBC, but also nationally, the National Collaborative for Health Equity across the board. We ask you to please take advantage of these resources and reach out to each other and have conversations. And thank you so much for being a part of this night as we talk about the voices of healing. Have a good evening.
We appreciate you spending time with us on Pause for the Truth. Ms. Jocelyn Turner and Dr. Rogers Kane are grateful for your support. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, catch us live on Twitch, and most importantly, subscribe on YouTube. A big shout out to Tyrone Jackson at Call Tyrone IT Services for keeping us connected. Join us every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for more enlightening discussions. Thanks, and see you next week.